fantastic. There's a round of applause. Start today by the drum of the United States. Another good people. Sweep around. It's going louder and louder.
Hello everyone, I'm Sophie Ward, Sophie's my friends call me, and I'm going to start by talking about something that I feel like a lot of us can relate to, which is imposter syndrome. Now, for those of you who don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's basically the feeling that wherever you've got to in your life, you got there by chance, you don't really belong there. No matter how hard you've worked, like I say, you don't belong there. You feel like you're beef on a vegan menu, or you're a cat in a kennel, or you're Brett Kavanaugh in the Supreme Court. Just don't belong there. But can we get a cheer from anyone, and be honest, if you feel like you felt imposter syndrome in your life? Sure. Really? Yeah. Your imposter syndrome is valid, just as my imposter syndrome is valid. And I, to be honest, I'm feeling imposter syndrome right now because Bright Club, it's meant to be a comedy night for science researchers. And I'm going to hold my hands up right now, my hand, and say that I'm not a researcher. I see myself as a scientist, but I'm more spent time communicating science. I make videos, I worked in a school for 2 years, I'm in a podcast. In fact, the only form of communication I've not really done is a presentation where I stand up and talk about the film where Mark Wahlberg is still friends with his childhood foul-mouthed bear. And I guess that would be my first TED talk. Zing! But no, I do feel a lot of imposter syndrome. In fact, this kind of scientist versus science communicator whole thing came to a head in a way when, for this gig on my bio, they'd given me the title neuroscientist. I had to email in and say, oh sorry, I'm a neuroscience enthusiast. and I actually put a little emoji on the email. And that actually holds a particular amount of bitterness for me because my degree was biomedical sciences, which I believe is Latin for shit medicine. I'm not saying it's true, I'm just translating directly. But I could have come out with a degree in neuroscience, but I decided to drop my psychology options. Now Gavin, I should know which one's Gavin because I was in sort of the performer's sheet back there, but Gavin, who's Gavin? Give me a wave. Oh, you're right the way back there, okay. Hi Gavin, so you were a psychologist, right? Yeah? Do we have any other psychologists in the house? Oh, plenty, including Kira from earlier. So you could probably all tell from my body language that I'm about to insult you. Sorry. But no, I have a lot of respect for psychologists, but not all of them, because I studied and then dropped developmental psychology. And that's basically studying babies. And studying babies, in my mind, is the biggest load of nappy filling, essentially. Because you try and work out what's going on in their brains and what they're thinking by what their face looks like and whether they blink. So you genuinely have these scientific studies where a lot of psychologists will show a baby a photo, let's say of an apple, and then the baby will blink. And then the psychologist will go, no, very interesting. I think because the baby blinked in that situation, I think they're going to grow up to be a mummy's boy. With an ENFJ personality type. And no, it just means the baby had dry eyes, like, chill out. And so I have a lot of bitterness that my non-neuroscientist fate was sealed because I didn't want to study blinking babies for another 2 years. But to be honest, there are certain psychological studies that I do like. In fact, a lot of them are in this book here. It's called Inferior. Has anybody read it? My friend back there. I will lend it to you all at once. It's like a science festival and a book share. No. So this book is by Angela Saini. It's fantastic. It's all about investigating the science that studies gender differences. I know you're thinking, she's wearing a jazzy shirt, got a nose piercing, talking about gender. She's a liberal! Killer! This book is I meant to say that was meant to be the word killer, like K-L-L-L-K-I K-I-L-L-E-R, but it came out as kill her. Please, the fact that give you after the latter makes it feel like I need some security. Yes, let's do it. So, this book, Inferior, so investigates gender differences, and one of the chapter I'm going to talk about is, it's like a book club, is a chapter that addresses the historical notion that men are sort of hardwired to want casual sex, for want of a better phrase, hardwired. Hi, Mum and Dad in the audience, second row. Whereas women want serious relationships, that's what's historically said. In fact, there's a rhyme that some man wrote. There's a rhyme that someone wrote that genuinely exists that reinforces this idea. That goes like this. It goes, higamus, hogamus, woman's monogamous. Hogamus, higamus, man is polygamous. It's cute, it's cute. I prefer the modern version, which goes, higamus, hogamus, woman's monogamous, hogamus, higamus, man needs to stop enforcing gender stereotypes with infantile rhymes. Cheers and applause. It's early in the night, my friends. Thank you. But no, the studies that I'm gonna talk about. So there was one study where they got men and women to be approached by strangers, and the stranger would ask if the man or the woman wanted to sleep with them. And it turned out that more men said yes than women. In fact, no women said yes. And then the researchers were like, oh, that must mean that men are more interested in casual sex. Whereas I viewed it as, oh, women are just more terrified of being attacked by a stranger. And there were another group of researchers that agreed with me on this, so they were like, we know, we'll do the study again, but we'll do it in a safer situation, in a lab. Because I know I'd rather be surrounded by concentrated hydrochloric acid than men. But no, so I'm just going to read this bit. This is my business card as a bookmark, it's its own use. This is what my second study is. Okay. Each person was, this is my study voice, each person was shown 10 photographs of strangers of the opposite sex and told that all of them wanted to go out on a date or meet up for sex with them in particular. If they agreed to meet, then they did so in a safe environment, and the team would film the first half of the encounter. Those who made the same assumption of me, it's a good job that they said first half, because otherwise, if it went well, they'd have some 18+ connotations on their hands. But secondly, again, another issue with this study is that it's meant to seem real. Like, I'm sorry, but if someone came up to me and said, hey Sophie, here's photos of 10 people that fancy you, I would immediately know they were lying. 10 people fancy me. 10 whole people, it's a bit much, mate. Single figures, we could have worked on it, but double figures, not a chance. The imposter syndrome would have slapped me in the face and I would have apologised. So that's just an example of one study in the book, but you know what, I love that book, because it really tackles stereotypes. And those are gender stereotypes, but I have to tackle stereotypes quite a lot in my life generally. So, I'm from Chorley, I'm from the north. Hey! You can tell she's from Chorley because she goes, hey! Chorley! So I'm from Chorley, but I went to uni down south. And while I was at uni, I went on one Tinder date. I say one, because I only did it once. And it was with a guy called Ralph. Red flag. Straight away. But he was interesting. It was an interesting one because I looked through his profile and I could tell from on one picture he was kind of like squinting a bit, like smouldering, and I was like, oh, he must be a mummy's boy with an ENFJ personality. Ooh. And he was also from Cheltenham, which is a city with a great science festival, but terrible Tinder game. I'm not saying those two are connected, but make of it what you will. The Manchester Science Festival is very good as well, so. But so we went on a date, and when he heard my voice in real life, he went, oh, so he was like, oh, really northern. Shiny Pokemon card. I was like, yes, I am. And he goes, this is a genuine quote. He goes, so tell me, Sophie, what's it like being from a mining family? He was being serious. He actually thought because I was from the north, I must have come from a mining family. And I was so frustrated by this stereotype that as soon as I got the day, I ran home and I was like, can you believe these stereotypes still exist? But my mum and dad weren't in the mood to talk because the canary had just died. But no, so stereotypes, and this is kind of bringing it all back full circle back to the imposter syndrome thing. Stereotypes for me are a bit of an issue, and imposter syndrome is an issue because when it comes to my identity as northern or southern, I often feel a lot of imposter syndrome. To my northern friends, I'm kind of a bit southern, and to my southern friends, I'm essentially an anthropomorphised pie. It's really difficult, and like, so I feel imposter syndrome in that regard, but also in terms of being a scientist. And like, to bring back to the beginning, like, there are a lot of people out there that would say, I'm not a scientist. I don't work in a lab, I don't peer review papers, I don't do tarot readings based on bacon linking. But I feel like I'm a scientist, and you know what? I see myself as a scientist. The same way that I see a small child who's making a mud pie and trying to balance out the amount of mud and water to make the right consistency. I see them as their own version of scientists. I see teachers and teaching assistants and science technicians as their own version of scientists. I see each of you, as long as you ask questions about the world around you, I see you as scientists too. And so, you know, I'm not trying to belittle professors and doctors because obviously they're more academically capable than I. But I felt like as it's a science festival, I would end on the kind of final thing of imposter syndrome. No matter how you feel imposter syndrome in the realm of science anyway, I feel like we can all be our own version of a scientist. And it doesn't make it any less about it. Whether you're a professor, whether you're a communicator, a teacher, a video maker, a journalist. And you know what? Gavin, even if you're a psychologist, mate. Thank you very much. I'm so